There it is. Credits. Another game beaten on a Thursday. Isn't that crazy? I think that's crazy. Let's see here. I didn't write down my thoughts for this game other than my first impressions. So I will get my first impressions out of the way. Then we can talk about my thoughts. Alrighty, so for my first impressions, which are my initial thoughts based off of day one. For day one, which was a 4-hour session, was completely boring and monotonous. I spent effectively the entire time asking the same people in town for directions to see a person or building so that I could detective where I could enact my revenge. Everything about it was slow and tedious, no tutorials from what I can see, no real direction, and just not fun. Steam achievements are roughly 20 to 30% for the activities I've done so far. I can see why around 70% of people stopped playing so early. So those are my first impressions based off of day one. And my overall thoughts on this game. And when I say this, I am not being hyperbolic. And this is just based off of the experience that I got. But this is the worst game I have ever played. I even go as far to say that I even struggle to find what makes it a game for the vast majority of my experience with it. And that's because, as illustrated in my first impressions, so much of this game is just running from one NPC to another NPC and asking them kind of silly questions about what I need to do next. And that style of interaction, I don't necessarily feel that it really denotes a game. You know, there was just too much of that for me to feel that it was doing something that other games typically do. Like there's not really any interaction with that. There's not really any choice. There's not really any gameplay. It's just running around asking a bunch of random NPCs a bunch of questions so that once you got the answer that you're looking for, you can then run around and ask all the NPCs again a new question so that you can repeat the same process over and over again. And it was just an awful experience to engage with, and I didn't have any fun whatsoever. Once we get to the shipyard harbor area, I think more of the game started to surface, but again, like the same formula is still there. There's just like the forklift thing. Like, yeah, it was a unique thing for the game at that section, but then they spread it out to like 5 or 6 days or something like that. There was the race, and it was like, like, okay, like I got my race on it, but then it was a required thing that was spread out across 5 or 6 days or something like that. And then on lunch, I go around and I talk to people. After work is done, I go around and talk to people. It like where's the joy and excitement in that particular experience? I just couldn't find it. And that's not even like that's not even the most egregious thing for this game. It's the waiting. You have to sit there and wait for time to pass. And that to me is it can be executed in ways that are done. What's a proper way to say this? Like it can be done in a way where it doesn't feel so bad to do, but this game just it just made you wait. And that's probably the worst way to go about it. And I waited too much. I'm so sick and tired of waiting in this game, and yeah, I genuinely don't think I liked or enjoyed a single aspect of it. The characters were all stiff and just didn't. Other than Tom, you didn't really get anything much from characters, and Tom was just way over the top, and that's the only reason you get anything from Tom. The voice acting was not to the benefit of this game. The quality of the remaster, I feel like, in terms of audio, is really disappointing. To hear all of the audio crackles and things like that in the music and in the dialogue. I think probably one of the better things that this game does is the animations are pretty good, especially for a game that came out in 1999. That's pretty nice. Combat to me was kind of confusing. It works, but because I don't know the actual style that the game expects me to engage with when it comes to the combat, I'm not exactly sure what the right way to approach it, and the game doesn't teach you how to do the combat. It just throws you into the combat, and so it basically just wound up being a mash the button kind of scenario for me. And like for some enemies, mashing the buttons wasn't the right way to go about it. So, I'd be a little bit more defensive and things like that. But even the fighting arenas that I had to fight in, they were so constrained and constricted. The camera was not very helpful in the slightest. And it just didn't work for me. I had a lot of issues with the combat too. Yeah. So if I just go through this, the story, was it satisfying? No, it wasn't. Did it feel complete? No, it's a cliffhanger. How was the pacing? Pacing was absolutely atrocious, as for reasons I stated. You're going across town asking random people questions, so that you can go ask everybody again random or questions to then like repeat the process. And like there's no narrative development that way. um we need events to unfold, much like during the harbor um section of the game, where like days are passing and we're seeing people get attacked by the mad angels, uh and like we're seeing those effects and things like that. That's a more applicable style of how I want to see the pacing of a game go. But it was still done incorrectly, because you have to start off with the race, then you have to do the actual work, and then you have 2 hours of lunchtime where you have to go ask questions, and stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff. I don't really have any additional thoughts on the story. Uh, Landy kills Rio's father, and Rio goes on a fact finding mission to track him down. And it basically just involves him asking people questions for the rest of the game. The writing, I don't necessarily feel the writing was uh, anything that I would like mention is done poorly, but I don't know anything about the translation. Um, I mostly think that if there's something wrong with the writing, the voice acting just made it amplified that much more. Characters, I didn't really care for any of the characters. Uh, Gameplay mechanics and design don't have any gameplay elements that stand out. I mentioned combat already. There's no really any dungeons. There's no cardinal sins. For the music, there were some nice aspects of the music, but again, with the issues with the the audio of the game in general, it sometimes it was just difficult to enjoy it, because you start hearing all these audio crackles and stuff like that. But it wasn't on every track, so there's that. Voice acting wasn't that great. The graphical style was actually kind of nice, especially for like a 1999 game. This game is very old, as we've um, established today. 24-ish years. It's not a sequel. Is the game worth recommending? I will not recommend this game to anybody ever. I The sooner I erase this game from my mind, the better. If the developer is watching, I think this game just hasn't aged well. If we go back in time to 1999, this game is probably revolutionary. I think there's a lot of people out there that find a lot of great things about Shenmue 1. And I think for its time period, it's probably a really cool experience. Having this open world, having all these NPCs with voice acting that you can talk to, have games within games, have these little like mini game things to it. Having a day-night cycle, like these are all super cool things. And there's all these little like sub actions that you can do, like talking to the cat, and like the side quest with helping the lady find the house and whatnot. And if you don't do certain things, they go away and you got to fill in your notebook. And like all of these things are pretty cool when you think back to those days. But now that we're in 2024, I'm playing this game, and it the ideals and the the design aspects of it are uh, too far behind from what I want to see in a video game. I don't think this game necessarily respects players' time, or at the very least, it didn't respect my time. You know, maybe other people, other people probably found other things that they could do or wanted to do or spend time with, but um, I just felt that my time wasn't necessarily respected. So I just didn't enjoy it at all. And will I? This question is presented: do I want a sequel? And I would say that I know that there's a Shenmue 2 because when I bought this game, it came with Shenmue 2, and I know that there's a Shenmue 3. I have no interest in playing Shenmue 2 or 3, and I will be refunding all the points that people had requested for Shenmue 2 because I am not playing them based off of my experience with this game. I don't anticipate that the the gameplay will change so drastically and the experience will be so drastically changed that I feel it's worth giving a shot. I actually I dislike this game so much that it's not even worth giving it a second shot. Generally, sequels are built on the foundations of their predecessors. There are some exceptions to that. I just personally feel, based off of not necessarily knowing too much about Shenmue 2, but based off of what I feel what would be improved on Shenmue 1, I don't think my issues will be resolved in Shenmue 2. Maybe Shenmue 3, but we're not going to find out. So, to reiterate my overall thoughts, I did not like this game at all. And I genuinely feel it is the worst game that I've ever played. Which is not to necessarily say that the quality of the game is so poor that it's like that worst. It's more of all the games that I have played to my recollection, this one would be at the bottom of the list because I've just enjoyed it the least out of everything. I'd rather play Kingdom Hearts 1 more than this. I'd rather play Yee's Memory of Celceta than this. I'd rather play Luminous Arc 2 than this. And Luminous Arc 2 was a game that I more recently regretted even putting time into. And I feel that very much for Shenmue 1. So those are my thoughts on Shenmue 1. I'll read chat and we can move on with our lives. Yeah, y'all getting rejected for those Shenmue 2 whatchamacallits. Here you have an example of what it's like if you translate dialogue in a more literal way. Instead of the nonsense blabble most translators make up instead. Okay. You're sad, but you like my honesty? I have no reason to not be honest about my feelings about video games. There is no benefit to me trying to dress it up, or maybe dress it up is the wrong thing, but for me to convey my thoughts in a way that would not feel genuine. So many questions left unanswered. You feel like I'm only 25% through the overall story. The way this game ended, I feel like Lan Di is not even going to be fought or killed, or the revenge is going to happen in Shenmue 2. I feel like Shenmue 2 is just going to be another cliffhanger. And maybe even Shenmue 3 might be a cliffhanger. Who knows? He didn't get his revenge story. Story 0 out of 10. Oh man. 2 hour lunch breaks if only. If only you get paid for the 2 hour lunch breaks. Then if you don't, it might be a problem. The dirge of a fighting theme, literally repeating one note for every bar, was something else. That information did not. I did not think about that as that was occurring, but I'm sure if I go back, I might agree with you. I was very focused on not dying in those fight areas. Who wants to sit another 2 hours at work doing nothing? Oh yeah, for remote work, it's 2 hours of being at home. You guess you're skipping dumping a ton of points in the sequel then? Yep, don't bother. Quick Axel the neuralizer for the Men in Black. You have to admit, playing it would be more annoying than watching. Yeah, I feel like I feel like the watch experience is probably not the worst thing in the world for this, especially in the case of YouTube having some added benefit of not sitting around for 30 minutes uh, and watching me wait. So there's that. But yeah. QuickTime must have been a new thing for back then. Oh yeah, I didn't even mention the QuickTime events. I I don't necessarily have an issue with QuickTime events. I know that they became a really big thing and they were overdone for a very long time. But I don't typically play games with QuickTime events, so usually it's a pretty fresh thing for me, and it's not been overused in the games that I typically play. So I didn't necessarily mind the QuickTime events. What I do wish is that I knew a QuickTime event was going to happen, because m- most of the time I found myself surprised that there was going to be a QuickTime event occurring. Um, and you know, I I need time to react. I set down my controller during cutscenes sometimes, so I don't have to carry it, and that's a me problem. I recognize that. It was worth a shot. You have no love for this game, nor would you have played it, unlike Resonance of Fate, which is awesome. You mean the game is a mess, a school project much akin to the Deadly Premonition games, but arguably worse. Um, I don't know the circumstances around the development of this game, or how it came to be, but um, it's an interesting sandbox. But finding where the game actually starts is where you're I guess where the discussion begins, because I didn't really find the game aspect for a really long time, basically until the harbor, and even the harbor just wasn't enough. Like it didn't go there enough. You do think the time difference between the sequels is long enough where the devs found out about a lot of the shortcomings from their first. However, it still retains its rustic, authentic experience out of choice. When did Shenmue 2 come out? That came out in September 2001. There is no way. There is no way. September, and Shenmue 1 came out in December. I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel very confident that there was there was much there. Oh, you meant between 2 and 3. Ah, yes. I think there is a possibility that the third Shenmue game is um has lots of quality of life elements to it. I But at the same time, see, this is where you get trapped, because uh if people like Shenmue 1, they want Shenmue 2 to be like Shenmue 1 but just better. So when you create a sequel to a game, uh 20 years later, we'll say, just to keep it simple, um you're not going to, you shouldn't reinvent the wheel. You know, you have your baseline of what people liked, and so you're going to iterate on that. And that begs the question: does iterating on what Shenmue 1 does, can that be improved so much that it becomes an enjoyable experience for me? And that seems like a very tough task. You would have to give me the ability to uh, time skip. You would have to give me some sort of tutorials about what exactly I can do and what I should be doing and what options are available to me. For example, I had to look up how to look around. Um, because I couldn't open up a drawer that had the key that I needed to progress the story. And I never knew that you could go into first person view and then use the camera control joystick to then look around at objects to then interact with them. I had to look that up because I couldn't figure out how to open the box and then get the Phoenix mirror and stuff like that. So like stuff like that needs to be uh, explained and tutorialized so that that is the expectation of what you need to do. The whole uh, detective aspect of it, of asking people questions and whatnot, like that just has to be completely overhauled. And there's no way that's going to be completely overhauled. So what are you going to do there? And then like forcing the mini games and forcing people to be available at certain times, and that annoying thing that they do where it's 2 p.m. right now and I go talk to the guy that I need to talk to at the time that I need to talk to him. And he's like, come back tomorrow at 6 p.m. So now I got to wait the rest of today, and then I have to wait the entirety of tomorrow just to go talk to that guy. There's too much. There's the hill is so steep. I I struggle to think that they could do it. What's next? I'll talk about that a little bit later. Um, there's a crowd who want them to deliberately make the game like it was still 25 years of 25 years age, which is ridiculous. You think a sequel should be considered in much the same way as a remaster. Like if you got your wish and Resonance of Fate 2 was made, you would hope they'd make a game both of us could love. Um so when here's the interesting thing. When I want to play, or if I play a game and there's a sequel to that game, I want the sequel of the game to be more of the same. I want it to be, so in this case, if I liked Shenmue 1, I would want Shenmue 2 to be more of the same of Shenmue 1. Obviously you make improvements, you add new features and things like that, but the general feel of the game, the interactions of the game, the style of the game, all the basically like the core mechanics, I want those to stick around in my sequels, and add new features, improve on them, make them nice, quality of life, all that good stuff. So that's where it becomes weird for me, is because if I wanted more of the same of Shenmue 1, I'd just be falling deeper into despair. And we don't want that. So that's where we're at. But anyways, I'm going to wrap up my thoughts here, and then I'm going to answer one more question in chat, and then I am dipping. So thoughts end after I do this. Never know, there might be something. Okay, there is nothing. Oh, there's a 70-man battle. Okay, yeah, thoughts ending here.